I want to play a game. You have amassed wealth, fame, and notoriety. You are perhaps my greatest asset. Without you, my work over the last few years would not have been possible. In return for that, I will keep no more secrets from you. You and I both know you have never been in a trap.
The traps were very simple in the first one. The head trap and the bathroom.
Shawnee's bear trap was the first trap that really gave us that jigsaw look.
It was just like this beautiful little kinetic sculpture that explodes into action.
I was told the first one she had popsicle sticks in her mouth holding, and when we redid it, all I did was make a cooler popsicle stick out of plastic. So.
Even the puppet, I think James created himself.
There was a string joining his mouth down a paper towel tube to where he would pull it. The whole head was kind of coming apart.
From there to where we went, it was amazing.
Yeah.
Many have aided in your cause, but few know the truth. Think of it like a Venus flytrap.
On Saw II, we built actual sets in an actual studio. It gave us a chance to really experiment with the traps a little bit more. The needle pit was probably the first large-scale full-room trap.
She had pads on her and we just stuck needles into it. Do you remember we did that mathematical equation? We had the pit and we figured out the volume and we're like, okay, we'll need this many needles, and Dan's freaking out.
It was like 40,000 at the first run.
For the first run, and Dan's freaking out. He's like, you're spending a lot of money on that needle pit. I'm like, well, I didn't write it and we gotta have needles in it. And we painstakingly ripped them out of their packages and took their tips off, and we had 5 people working in 5 days. We put them in the pit and it was like a foot.
We need more needles.
More needles. Yeah. We came to 120,000 needles.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was my hell. That was a tough one.
I think that was one of the first big traps where that whole room became the trap. We had to be able to light it from the side. We had to be able to shoot in from the side, from the top. So we had to have glass floor underneath the needles, so it looked like the needles were deep.
And we found out later that she was pregnant when she shot that scene. Nobody knew that she was pregnant.
The hand trap was something where Darren had talked to me about having a jar on a person's hand, almost like a camera aperture of razor blades, eventually cutting their wrists and filling the jar with blood. And it was also at the same time that the whole idea of them having this thing running through their veins and needing an antidote for it. And we said, well, perfect place for that would be in a box. Comes in this room, she reaches in, knocks it over the first time, and then she reaches in the other hole. And then we had this happy accident when we were lighting it. The blood created this effect and she just turns all red. That was the movie that really set the tone for the rest of the franchise. We could find all kinds of new justifications for how Jigsaw was able to create things.
The cage you find yourself in will symbolize your rebirth.
2 went through the roof. We had to ensure on Saw 3 that we raised the bar even more.
Jigsaw must have done a lot of weightlifting, because I don't know how he was supposed to cart around the stuff that we made for that one.
Yeah.
With the rack?
Well, the rack. That was a sore day at the shop for me.
I bet you it was.
Yeah.
I'm just remembering that day because the rack cutoffs were the actor yelling, Jason, stop, Jason, stop. And is that a fake yell or a real yell?
The Troy trap in the classroom, the beautiful image, nothing mechanical to it.
The ring pulling the skin was so effective. I mean, just in the simplest prosthetic.
And Jay did a great job acting that.
We never wanted to put children in Saw movies, but rather feel the presence of them.
Going to the classroom.
Going to the classroom like that was really kind of cool. For me, the angel trap was one of the most
nerve-wracking. The trap had been tested like I don't know how many times in front of everybody, but there was the trap and then there was all the prosthetics. So I was like doing calculations and trying to make it so that it was slow and weak around her arms, but super strong when it gets past the arms. We get to set, Darren yells roll, and I push the big red button and it's like, nothing. Everybody's just eyeballing it. Okay, we're good to go. Jim, get Mario over here quick. Mario gives a little tug to get it past the initial dead zone, and then it was just like, because I dialed it up so high.
You call yourself a survivor.
You lose Jigsaw at that point.
It just seemed like everything was different after that.
Yeah, we had sort of hit the wall a little bit. How many ways can you actually kill somebody? I don't think that it was the end of the good traps. It just meant going to different territory.
I think the hair trap. I liked it for one reason, the intimacy. I liked it small, it was really self-contained, didn't get crazy big. It did what it was supposed to do.
Yeah, that was one of the cases where we did work really hard to answer how Jigsaw got that in the apartment. That was one of the first traps where I felt like we were grasping. That was one that was a struggle, I think, start to finish.
We were under the gun. We had to deliver.
Yep. For me, the ice block trap was a favorite because that room was amazing. It was set up like a mouse trap. When Rig comes through the door, bang, chick click, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it all goes snap, 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 and everything happens.
That's the first trap I went, wow, Jigsaw can do anything. What kind of engineer is Jigsaw?
Electrical, mechanical. They wrote him as civil, making that foot, now he's a biomedical.
You will come full circle and you will learn.
By this point, I feel like we're tipping the scale and the traps are becoming much bigger. Like everything from here on out is just a big, big trap.
I think Saw V was one of the times we had a lot of things that could kill you.
That pendulum,
was
the pendulum trap?
That was very
The
scary.
pendulum was terrifying. That arm swinging down across the room.
The weight.
That blade just kept, in design, kept getting bigger.
Literally, there had to be people on either side of the pendulum's arm keeping people clear, just in case it came down at the wrong time, because it would kill you. The actor was stuck there for a good long time.
Oh, yeah.
I think Steve let him out for lunch.
At one point,
we broke for lunch and he was in it.
Have to
It
leave
was
him
like,
there.
we'll bring you something blended.
the cube was definitely deadly. I mean, Scott almost drowned twice. He had to crawl in from underneath and slide through this rubber gasket around the neck and let all this water fill up around his face. So once it got up to his nose, the water was just rolling down his throat. So the first time it happened, he almost drowned. We gave him a snorkel in between takes.
Oh, I
Remember that? There were points where his adrenaline was flowing like crazy and his legs were literally just shaking. He came to me after and he said, I gotta tell you something that changed my life doing that trap.
That's what Jigsaw does.
That's what Jigsaw's all about.
Unite the survivors. This must be our purpose.
By this time, it was like Christmas for us. Every year we'd be doing another Saw.
Carousel was totally different from anything that's happened so far.
You've got all these actors on this carousel, and all the guys came out and they're all macho, like, yeah, just let's do this. We strapped them in, and they were just spinning around all day, spinning around with lights going around. And like 3 times around, they're all almost puking.
The steam room was a trap that on Saw 2, we threw it out because we thought, well, it's not going to work. And we couldn't figure it out then. But then I think by Saw 6, we had opened up our thinking a little bit more.
What was the actor's name?
The girl?
Caroline.
Sweet, soft, and then all of a sudden, roll them. Wildcat.
Really, we have a very limited amount of time to get this concept figured out, figure out how to engineer, get
sometimes it was less than a week.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, like Angel Trap, you had that little pencil model, and it's like, this is how it's going to be. It's
going to be like this.
Watch this.
Jason's like, okay, I'll take this back to my shop.
The amount of engineering that we've had to learn, 20,000 volts would mildly electrocute you, but 100,000 volts would definitely kill you. How much blood is there in a person's body, and how much can they lose and still maintain consciousness?
Didn't we establish it was 3 5-gallon pails or something like that?
Learning some of these things are ridiculous. I mean,
I've showed you a lot of places. Does it mean anything to you?
We have 11 traps this year. Last year there were 6.
We had to have a lot more depth. It was a bigger deal for all of us.
With 3D, every detail is important now. We can't just let it go off to black like we could in the previous years. All the elements have to work together.
traps were designed with 3D in mind. The triangle trap at one point was just a single saw going back and forth, and then developed into 3 saws.
When we added the 2 other saws, it made it so much heavier, and the actors are really, really struggling to push that back and forth.
And we shot it on location with time restraints, all kinds of people watching. I remember reading that scene going, how the hell are we going to do this?
Outside at night with cars ramping and blowing up.
It was a different world for us.
What the fuck is this, man?
He's got to break free of the glue to reach a lever and stop the trap. Behind him is one of his friends. He's got loops through his arms and his jaw. And then we've got his girlfriend underneath the tire of the car. I think we shot that in 2 days, didn't we, Tony?
It was cold.
In the rain, in a junkyard.
Which is why the Saw movies were always done in the studio.
Yeah, exactly.
Tráilers. Visita mi canal.
The hoisting was probably the most complex part of figuring out what was going to happen. And they wanted multiple levels. They were looking up from Joyce to him, down from him to Joyce. That's one regret I had. I wish I had put a mechanism on the platform itself that looked like it was grinding the chain up, instead of just having the hole there.
Instead of the chain going down through the hole, right.
That was a tough trap. There's lots going on.
The special effects basically built that closing furnace. That was just huge right from the get-go.
hook under the mouth, I think, was one of the most simple and elegant ones for me.
He's right next to her. It's a very intimate trap. It's a very close contact. They're right above each other.
Watching it in the end,
it worked.
That was probably the most visceral thing in the entire movie.
That was my favorite trap in the movie. At one point, she's like just shaking in the thing because everything's right there, and she's just like.
And then it had that safety stop in it, so it didn't go too far.
Okay, I'm just going to say this for the record, that I think it's amazing we didn't kill anyone.
Well, some of the things got a little close.
Yeah.
But we were also like on set. We were like, oh, don't worry, it's fine. We've done this a lot. This is my fourth Saw movie, and the actors freaking out. We're like strapping them in. Yeah.
We're kind of walking a fine line some days. As long as everything works perfectly, then we're cool. But if one little thing kind of went the wrong way, we wouldn't be cool.
It did get hard towards the end in Saw VII, where we were just like, what are we going to do now? How are we going to up this?
I think it was the whole concept of having to up it versus kind of going back to basics.
I've showed you a lot of places, but there is one that will be perhaps the most meaningful to you.
Met a lot of great people. Always felt like we were part of a really important group. Always felt like we were important to each other.
We developed a lot of trust between us as well, because I could say to David or to Tony, this is what I'm thinking, and they'd be like, okay, just go with that. And then I could go to Jason, or Jason could come to me, and it would be like, we knew how to speak the language of Jigsaw.
It's just hard to tell people what you do sometimes when you're working on this series.
Or when you go to Home Depot or somewhere.
And you're covered like in blood up to here.
Yeah, you're covered in blood and you're buying
springs,
stuff.
Those blades.
Don't ask the questions.
I know, exactly.
You don't want to know.
It was 6 or 7 years of our lives. Come New Year's or something, you know it's not coming, but deep down you're going to go, okay, I got to start prepping for Saw. I better start sleeping as much as I can now or something.
It was an experience.
It certainly was. Would you do another?
Yeah.
How much blood will you shed to stay alive? It's right in front of your eye. Once you're in hell, only the devil can help you. I want to play a game.